Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 11 of Les Oderants. As always, I am Dan and I am joined by Ben, James and Fliss. Say hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Excellent. Right, let's just get into it. Let's talk about perfume. I can only talk about one interesting perfume this week, which actually I put on my Instagram today. And it is by Castle Forbes, who I'd never heard of. Apparently they make shaving type stuff. It was not terribly expensive. I bought it off my friend Josh. Shout out to Josh. For about 50 quid. And it is their Neroli, and it's actually really fucking good. Not a huge fan of Nerolis, as it goes. Tend to find it's like a fucking orange that's being killed in utero. It's like it just has a sort of whiff of early death to it for some reason. Well, I say for some reason, it's orange blossom, isn't it? But it comes across almost morbid in a weird way. I find Neroli. But this is quite sweet and quite thick and almost verging on jammy, which for a Neroli is quite something. It's an excellent perfume, and I think it's only like 65 quid new, and it comes in a very handsome bottle. So that is sure? Are you sure? Interesting,
because you kind of that imagery of like, you know, sort of, was it like fetuses or something? I don't know.
Yeah, well,
like it doesn't sound.
Well,
like
that's.
It's pretty fucking dark, bro.
Yeah, it's a dark opening to the episode. No, that's Neroli in general. I find Nerolis in general not to really be my thing. But this one I've really enjoyed, actually. And maybe it's just seasonal and you know, it's like fucking super hot and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I figure if you don't like Neroli like me, and you would like a Neroli perfume that you do like, I would say check it out. I don't know anything else about them other than they make shaving products and that they are a British brand. And then
I was sort of joking, but I kind of wasn't, because it says on the bottle they've like split up the Forbes, so it looked like it said Castle for Bez. And I was like, they built a castle for Bez? Like, I know he's got a lot of maracas, but fucking hell.
I hadn't actually noticed they'd split up the Forbes. No.
On the bottle, they have. Does it not?
No, it says castle, and then, yeah, I suppose there is a perceptible gap between the R and the B, yeah. So
it fucked my head. Anyway.
Castle for Bez. Well, jobs are good, and then this evening, because it is boiling up in Manchester. It is like fucking, I don't know, it must be 30 degrees or something obscene. And I've just applied about 40 sprays of Creed Royal Mayfair, which I just think is like absolute perfection for the heat. You know, that kind of eucalyptus-y sort of. When I first smelled it, I thought it smelled like naphthalene, you know, like mothballs. But actually, it's just so much more than that. I love that. Yeah. And maybe I would describe it as a masterpiece, although probably wouldn't, because I'm not a cunt. So good. Right. Who wants to go first? Ben, I'm picking on you.
Yeah, okay. I've, funnily enough, like spent quite a bit of time wearing Silence the Sea. But it's kind of interesting because obviously we talked about it a bit before, well, quite a lot before. But the first hour I wore it, I loved it, and I thought, yeah, this is still brilliant. This is exactly what I remember. I love it. I had a great time with it. Wore it the next day because I thought, I love that so much, I'm just going to keep wearing it. So I wore it the next day, fucking hated it. Got about halfway through the day, wanted to kill myself, and I was like like laying on the floor, crying in the corner, weeping to myself. Like,
stop.
Yeah, basically. And it didn't wash off, and I was just like, oh, I hate life. Like, what is going on? I did that thing. I washed it, and you could see the water beading up on my wrist, where it was just like bouncing off of it. And so I just wore it then. And I thought, but then because I'm sadistic, I just thought I can't like finish it with that, because otherwise I won't ever wear it again. So I need to wear it a third time and see what it's like. And I loved it again. So I don't know what happened that day, but it just seems to be like it's a complicated perfume, but it just seems.
I think you're complicated.
But I seem to remember though when we talked about the Strange Love stuff, I said that when I wore Fall Into Stars 3 days in a row, I'd never experienced 3 different perfumes or one perfume smelling 3 different ways. So obviously for me, and I think that all of their stuff is so complex that you can wear it on different days, and depending on your mood, depending on the weather, depending on, I don't know, the air pressure in Spain or whatever it is, they do seem to be so complex. You don't get what you expect every time, and it's not like, spraying on Sauvage and you just, it's always going to be the same every time. And I kind of there's something interesting about that, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely a complicated beggar, isn't it? But yeah, and then talking about Strange Love, then I wore the next day from Fliss, which you sent me, Melt My Heart, because I didn't get it in my sample pack, because my sample pack came with 2 of one and didn't come with a Melt My Heart, which gutted me at the time, because I read the notes and was like, I bet I would have loved that one. Because it's like iris, chocolate, oud, kind of dark, woody thing. And then... that's what it sounded like on paper, but fuck me, that's good, isn't it? I think that.
You did like it. I was going to say.
I really
I thought we were building up to. I thought I was going to love it, and no, I fucking hated it. No, but you did love it.
Brilliant. Yeah, I did really. I can't remember what everyone thought of it. I know Fliss obviously loved it, but I can't remember like you guys what you thought of it.
I bought the bottle off Fliss, didn't I? So
right.
There's your answer.
And I rebought a bottle in Harrods sale after. Basically, I bought one on the grey, and then my husband said, "Oh, not so sure." I thought that's a very expensive 15ml to be sitting on the side of my drawers. So I sold it to James, and then very cheap. There was a 50% Harrods sale, and I rebought another bottle because I couldn't be without it.
Really good. I think that the thing that did sort of depress me a little bit is it didn't last that long.
No, it doesn't have huge longevity, I don't think.
But that's okay. Like, as long as you're aware of that. I think it disappointed me, because smelling it straight off the bat, I was like, oh, this is a beast. This is going to last all day, because it's one of them frags. It's quite dense, but it doesn't. It's sort of, after like an hour or so, it gets quite sort of effervescent and a bit sort of like floaty, doesn't it? And that, I think the things that I expected to become dark and kind of long lasting, like the woody sort of chocolatey aspects, they sort of like took off and sort of like left, but it was still bloody good. Like it was really, really good. And I think, like, thinking back to the Strange Love, I still don't think it would have topped the other one. What was it called?
Fall Into
Stars.
Oh no, you like Dead of Night, didn't you?
I think you were Dead of Night. That was your one.
Yeah, I don't think it would have topped that one for me, but it would have
been up there,
come close to being like my favourite. It was really good. Really liked it.
Excellent. Anything other than Strange Love in your life?
Do you know what I've been wearing quite a lot of, and I wouldn't normally mention it. I think I've mentioned it before, maybe, but Monsieur Beauregard by Penhalicans. I've been wearing that quite a lot this week. I wore it like 3 days, which is weird, because it's a nice one, but it's quite boring. It's weirdly, it smells a lot like, because it's probably less likely to have smelled, but it smells a lot like that Versace Pour Homme one that with the spiky glass bottle, if you know that one, which is sort of like gourmandy iris thing.
Right, yeah.
It smells a lot like that. But it's kind of crap. But I don't know. It is nice.
And yet, it's pulling you back in.
Well, it's a nice perfume. That's the thing. And so one day I was like, my sister was coming around with my nephews to cut their hair, so I just wanted something nice that isn't going to offend them, because You know, like normally that most stuff I would wear would offend them. And my sister's the sort of person that wears Baccarat Rouge 540 day in, day out, bang, bang, bang. So like, you know, I just put that on. But I do like it. But that's the sort of thing you would wear it for. Do you know what I mean? When you were wearing it with someone in the company of someone as beige as that, that's what you wear, I guess.
You just called your sister beige?
Yeah. Wow. I think she'd probably agree.
Wow.
I know kids.
Well, kids are quite fun. But,
oh my God.
little bit brutal. Not a listener then. Yeah.
One would hope not.
Well, we'll find out, won't we?
Yeah. But yeah, no. But that's about it, really. Just those three. Yeah, been taking up most of my time, really.
You love that Beauregard, don't you? You're always.
I do really like it, actually.
Yeah, he's always on
He's
about
only
it.
left, you know.
He won't shut the fuck up about it.
The
I
funny
mean, it's
thing
like
is
constant.
it's so boring. Like, you know, it's so. It's like it reminds the thing I would probably put it with. They don't smell the same, but they give me the same vibes as Professor Layton. Not Professor Layton, that's just a computer game. Layton, as in...
Perfume de Malle.
Yeah, Bob's Bubble Works. What was it?
Professor Burp's, yeah. Professor Burp's Bubble Works.
Perfume de Malle Layton, yeah. It reminds me of that. They don't smell similar, but they remind me of that in the way of like that kind of crap, sort of vanillic, irisy, sort of maybe like chavvy clubbing sort of scent.
I think
and
Layton is
sort of,
such a shitty perfume.
It's horrible, isn't it? I used to own it and I sold it, but it's quite... Oh.
It doesn't smell bad, but it's just... I don't know, it just feels like the kind of... It's like the masterpiece of generic. You know, it's like the most generic thing ever. Without being bad, you know. I mean, some generic things are truly awful. It smells nice, but it's just I don't know.
I think it's bad.
You think it's what? Like you don't like it, or it's technically bad, or?
I don't like it. I don't really speak to the technical aspect of it. Let's just leave that to one side. I think as far as sort of foreshadowing what we're talking about like masterpieces and what you consider the criteria for it and all that. If you were to say a slightly sort of like, did it change the game, even if it was for fucking morons, in my opinion, that like it, who obviously we're better than because we're snobs as well. But
naturally.
I just think that like it was that sort of iconic perfume for them. So who am I really to sort of criticize it because it is wildly popular. However, all I will say is that on a superficial level, smelling it instantly, I'm like, oh, I quite like this. It's got like a sort of appley note, and then it's this sort of, I don't know, kind of creamy thing. But the two together, just no. And when I'm wearing it, it's not even like, it's popular to slag something off, and people kind of expect me to be like, oh, turn my nose up at like a Layton or whatever. It couldn't be further from the truth. I would love to love it, right? And I've tried like wearing it like numerous times, and I start out by spraying it and going, oh, that's not too bad. And then after like moments, it's a bit like that horrible Xerjoff one that you inflicted on us. What was that one? Or Suspiro or something? Herba
Pura.
That kind of like, oh, you spray it initially and you're like, oh, actually that's quite fun and playful and whatever. And then it's like, it's fucking the devil itself.
Yeah, it's fun and playful in the way that a psychotic clown with a knife is fun and playful.
Yeah, and it doesn't take long for it to go, right, this is actually a horrible perfume. And then I've worn this like numerous days and really tried it out, and I can honestly say, same with Cedroc Boisy or Boise or whatever you want to call it. Those perfumes are just, they're so like devoid of any soul, and people like thinking that they're great just annoys me. So I think they're shit.
When I got it, like what reeled me in was like that kind of spicy wood opening, like that sort of dark peppery opening, and I really like that about it. But like you say, like quite quickly it turns into this kind of like cloying vanilla thing with this sort of aftershave background that just it just reminded me of like I felt like when I wore it, it's like I needed to pop my collar and pop my classics on and have a little dance. Do you know? Like, it was just just chavtastic. It was just too much.
Not good.
Yeah. But everything that you say there does actually fit to Beauregard. So I feel like I'm justified in saying that. In that it is like a masterpiece of generic, and it is just a bit like nice but boring.
A masterpiece of generic. That's going to run. I think that's got some legs. We need to, the pinnacle of generic perfumery. Okay, so Fliss, tell us about your exciting wares. The good, the bad,
the bad, the ugly. Okay, so I'm definitely eating my words about zoologist Nightingale, and I've been very honest about that so far. The last zoologist I had to test from the little sample set that Georgina sent me was elephant.
That's very green, isn't it?
Sweet Jesus. It smells like new. It smells like a pair of new Wellington boots, and I mean like a very high-end, nice Wellington boots, like a pair of Hunters or something. But it's so astringent and green and rubbery. It just, I feel like Nightingale has been like the glorious blip in my hate of zoologist. And just, there's just this one beacon that I love, and everything else can just, I just can't be arsed with it, to be honest. And I've sort of scrubbed it off. And then I had a lot of very busy life and work and everything. And so I just wanted to smell relatively easy and nice. And also my friend Sarah re-listened to the patchouli episode, and so I spent some time decanting patchoulis and patchouli roses for her, and I ended up just wearing those for quite a long time as well. So Greedy Ore, which is lovely and light, and that was the most unisex of the set of patchouli roses that I was like igniting my love for. And it's the one with the least heft, but it's very, very beautiful, and it has a modernity to it that I really like. I've only got a decant, and I'm trying to work out if I need it. I don't think I do. It would make an excellent expensive office scent, if you know what I mean, or a nice scent for the morning school run if you're that sort of person. But I don't think I need it, but I do really like it, if you know what I mean. I also wore a lot of Rouge Nocturne by Terry de Gunsberg, which I think is a really underrated house, and it's a much darker patchouli rose. It's much jammier than the Greedy Ore, and the patchouli turns very much more powdery, almost baby powdery in a way. I really, really like it. And it has very good silage and longevity, and it feels that kind of rosy baby powdery thing. It was one of the few perfumes I was able to stomach when I was pregnant with my firstborn, and because of that, it has really lovely memories for me. And so I don't think I'm ever going to have. I'm never going to associate it with anything other than that.
Being up the duff
the first time. Yeah, exactly. And then I also tried Paul Smith rose, which I know has got no patchouli in, but I was just on a rose kick, and it's just such a lovely cheapie, 20 quid. You can't go wrong with it. It's just a really easy, it's not even easy.
Really nice.
It's a phenomenal Soliflor rose, and you can get it for 20 quid on eBay, and I just think that it's very clean and natural smelling. It smells like a garden rose, not a soapy tea rose, and it's, I think for that price point, and even for 10 times that price point, I think it's just an excellent rose. And then I also tried Rose Silence by Miller Harris, which is really in the same vein as the Paul Smith, but a little bit punchier and a bit more aquatic, but actually side by side, if you're looking at price, then just go with the Paul Smith. Then I did Gallop to Hermes as well, because I got into a bit of rosy leathers as I was walking around my rose collection. I loved it. Absolutely.
I don't think I've ever tried Gallop.
I blind bought it because I'd been hanging out for a sample and I just couldn't get my hands on a sample anywhere. And so I blind bought it grey on the group, so I got it for less than half price. and I thought I can just sell it if I don't like it. But the leather accord is just exquisite, and it's really saddly and suede-y. It's not a pussy leather in any way. It's definitely there, and I liked it.
Did you just use the expression pussy leather?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Well,
this is awkward.
I meant in terms of
mean?
like a soppy. It's not soppy. It's not a pussy. It's definitely there. It's the leather is there. I didn't mean it like as a lady's bits.
Okay.
It's a fanny leather.
It's not a fanny leather.
You can't say fanny leather.
I just said pussy leather, so I can say what I want now.
Yeah, sure. I was sat here thinking, I don't know what that means.
Little money pouch.
Did you just money pouch? Oh my God!
Have you tried Let It Rock, Fliss?
No, I haven't.
Westwood?
Let's just get off of just because let's stop talking about my swearing and go and talk about perfumes. Yes, Ben, please do continue.
Have you tried Let It Rock
No,
by
I haven't.
Vivienne Westwood? Okay, it's like a patchouli, which just reminded me like that because you were talking about patchoulis, but it reminds me a lot of Linston de Galan, the Galan men's perfume, but with like added kind of white florals to it. But it's really nice. It's like a kind of white floral.
Do I need to be
thing.
writing it down?
It's
is
nice.
Is it still in?
Yeah,
when after lovely Vivienne, God rest her soul, carked it, all of her perfume on eBay, especially the discontinued stuff, is now, oh my God, some of the prices. Talk about price gouging.
Yeah, and I had every single one, and I sold them all recently for about 20
numpty.
quid. And the only two I've got left are Sin Garden, Boudoir Sin Garden, and Let It Rock. But as far as I know, Let It Rock is really cheap because they've all been discontinued for ages anyway. But they were relatively cheap to get. If you kept your eye out on them.
I looked. I've been looking for Boudoir since she died, and it's pointless.
I sold Boudoir for about 15 quid on the group about 2 years ago, a year ago.
If you'd have sold it this year, it would literally have been about 150. Some of the prices are ridiculous. Yeah, absolutely mental.
Mad. I mean, Boudoir's good perfume, but I don't know if I pay 150.
No, I think people are bottle collecting as well, though, aren't they? It's that kind of memorabilia thing happening. I think it'll calm down again.
But Let It Rock's great.
So the stirrup that is. What's it called? Gala is quite a phenomenon because I tried it when it first came out in the shop, and I was like, yeah, I'm not really like feeling that. And then I've put it to one side, and I've tried it again, and I think I tried the EDP as well. Excuse me. And I loved it. And I was like, yes, there's another Hermes that I can get into. And I haven't I've deliberately put it on the back burner to be like, I'm going to get really heavily into this perfume at some point. And I haven't, but I know that I will. It's kind of soapy rose. It's really, like you say, very sort of veiled leather accord, but it's definitely like in there. The bottle is beautiful. That whole like stirrup design of the bottle.
But I think also as well the Hermes leather accords, I really like them. I've got Quidange, and I've also got Violet Vlonica, and although they're all different perfumers, there is a house DNA to how the leather needs to feel. Even if it's not the same accord per se. Do you know what I'm saying? There's a Hermes feel to the leather, and I really like it. I really like it.
That's one thing about those kind of houses where they sort of instill this kind of like brand aesthetic, whatever you want to call it. And it was interesting to see the Stephanie Bacouche talk thing that's coming up with the British Society of Perfumers, that she was an evaluator for Hermes, but as far as I know, she made anything for Hermes, but she was an evaluator, which is interesting that they have these sort of secondary kind of roles, and a lot of companies and whatever do this, but where Do you know what I mean?
They have a perfumer who's creating the perfume, but then they have other master perfumers who are checking the tick box of whether it fits the brand.
Probably checking that it fits the brand. Yeah, that's to my imagine. I don't know if that's the case, but I would imagine that's what an evaluator kind of does, and that they have to be really trusted by the brand.
Yeah.
To make sure that they're representing what Hermes is. Yeah. So I think that's another interesting.
I have to say, aspect. As a house, I'm only really in the last couple of years really getting into them. I think probably because they was just so expensive, but being on the groups, I've got a lot more access to that than I had before, and I'm really enjoying a lot of their stuff. I really, really am. I think. There is I think one of the DNAs is that a lot of it's quite light a lot of the time, or it has a very airy quality. There's sometimes I wouldn't expect it all to last. It's certainly never going to be a beast mode perfume, but I think that there's a really beautiful deftness to everything of theirs that I've tried so far, especially their more modern stuff that I'm really enjoying.
You're saying about the house evaluator and stuff as well, everything with Hermes, it just has to feel like absolute class as well. I feel like if you ever need anything to match with a suit or to go to an interview or something like that, just look at Hermes because it's all just fucking class.
Yeah, it's all classy. It's all.
I don't see Hermes doing Leighton.
I know.
Just not their vibe at all. Cool. Anything else, Fliss?
Not really. I've just been, to be honest with you, I've just been wearing a lot of very nice things, and I've really enjoyed not stretching myself. I know that sounds silly, but I've just had 2 weeks of just wearing all the delightful roses and patchoulis that I own, and I've just been this is nice. It's pleasant, isn't it? Yeah.
It's pleasant, familiar.
Yeah, really familiar and gentle. And I think sometimes, especially testing stuff with you guys as well, I think I especially when I started, I got myself really into a mindset of I've got to just keep testing new things. And actually, no, I also need to spend time just loving the stuff that I've got. And so, I know exactly how you feel. I find myself wearing lots and lots of different samples almost every day, and it's thinking, what perfume are you wearing today? Well, fucking, what perfume am I not wearing? I've got 10 all over me. It is quite nice to just go and pick one that you go, well, I know I love this. Yeah. Great, I'm going to wear this today, and that is it. Job done. Yeah. I know exactly where you're coming from. Okay. Well, it feels like it's about that time. Tell me, James, how many do we have this week?
13.
Well, unlucky for some.
Yeah.
But not for us and our listeners.
Well, you said it would be a fucked up number this week because we've had a bit of bank holiday. Yeah,
I mean, interestingly, I was about to say unlucky for us and our listeners. It seems like Fliss and I are just on opposite ends of the fucking appreciation spectrum for this one.
Well, the last one took fucking ages, didn't it? And I mean, I think I get quite wrongly sort of categorized as taking ages over the thing, when in actual fact, interesting fucking points come up, don't they? And we end up discussing, and then an hour later you'll go, how many's left? And I'm like, I'm halfway through.
Yeah, fucking how many's left? 14.
I'll tell you what, let's do it. Let's do something a little bit different this week. I'll do it backwards. So I'll be like, no, not like that.
Can someone restart James? He seems to be malfunctioning.
Anyway, so today I'm wearing a Dior Eau Noir because it's a really heavy, muggy, kind of humid day. And
weird perfume to pick for a heavy, muggy, humid day. I know, I'll pick the fucking strongest curried coffee fucking darkness I can find.
Yeah.
Man.
Is that the old one or the new one?
It's a
green or yellow?
Oh, it's green. Yeah. It's not new in terms of the new one. Which I haven't actually smelled, by the way.
Just on that, is the new? I was reading about. So I saw a bottle on. I take the piss, but I was sort of thinking I need to revisit it. And I saw a bottle on eBay, and it was clearly the new one. So I went and looked online. There doesn't seem to be a separate entry for the new one on Fragrantica. I know Fragrantica is obviously bullshit, but there doesn't seem to be a new entry, and I'm wondering whether it's just they just keep calling it the same thing. It's not like, where with Dior Homme, for example, there's different entry for various different years when they acknowledge that they changed it.
Yeah.
Is the new one actually meant to be different? Is, I guess, the fucking very long run-up to the question.
I wouldn't necessarily use Fragrantica, as you quite rightly said, as the sort of yardstick for that, because they sometimes, there's things that they don't even have in the database. But I think, like, the main... they usually... So they're not really consistent either. So sometimes you think, oh, well, they've got other Diors, like you say, like the Dior Hommes and stuff they've actually acknowledged. But I don't know is the answer. I really don't. So we'll
fair enough
find that one out. But yeah, I love it. Like we say, we all know the score with it. It's very sort of heavy and kind of almost like syrupy sort of like vibes. But I love the lavender gives it a kind of it's just like one of my favorite perfumes. And yeah, I didn't even really think about the weather particularly. Sorry.
It's the most alpha of all fragrances of all time, I think. Like, for me, like, do you know what it reminds me of every time I wear it, right? Has anyone seen American Psycho?
Yes, of course.
There's that bit where he's having sex with that woman, he's looking at himself in the mirror and, like, looking at his bicep.
Yeah.
That's what that perfume reminds me of. Every time I spray it, I'm like... That's what this is. This is what that is. That's what that room smells like.
Christian Bale self-regarding.
Well, if I hadn't had to take my 5-year-old son to a tennis lesson this morning, I probably would have been doing that. But I did that instead, and then we went for a walk. We went for a walk through the woods, which was nice. Yep. And I still didn't get any opportunity to do that.
It's a shame.
And then, there's still time in the day. Do you know what I mean? We're doing the podcast now, but who knows what might happen.
Drop
later.
the kid off at tennis and do a little bit of dogging.
Kind of weird detour there. Shall we move beyond Eau Noir?
Yeah, to Cosmic Incense by Harry Sherwood. I know it's by Harry Sherwood. Is it by that brand Hoo Ha that are now not called Hoo Ha? Which is good that they're not called Hoo Ha now, because it was a fucking stupid name. And I'm glad that they're not, but I'm kind of almost a bit resentful. Like, you've whiteyed a bit on that one. You didn't stick to that fucking stupid name. You've now done a rebrand, and I don't respect you for the rebrand now. So, anyway. So
it's a very, very harsh position they find themselves in with you. So inescapable.
I'm kind of joking. They've brought some like cool brands to the forefront, and I get the concept. I'd say it's not really for you or I or people who actively go out and try perfumes anyway. Who needs it to be, put on a plate for you? Some people do, and that's their market, and fine.
I think they call themselves Sense Social now.
Worse, I preferred Hoo Ha. Sense Social.
I mean, Hoo Ha was at least kind of distinctive and memorable.
Yeah.
Sense Social is like, blech.
Yeah, that's just, okay, so anyway, Cosmic Incense is wonderful. It's labdanum-y, it's olibanum-y, it's lovely, smoky. It's got that like fruity sort of top note. Smells a little bit like very like sweet, like Dolly mixtures or something, like when it sort of opens up, and then just goes into this beautiful woody, slightly smoky, really legit incense fragrance. It's wonderful. And then I mean, and again, just to Harry, and I'm not just saying this to be like you know, because he's my mate and all that, acquaintance, whatever. Everything that he's ever sent me, right, which is not very much, right, just accords.
It's not very. Come on, Harry. It's not very much, mate.
I'm not being funny like that. I haven't tried an extensive back catalogue of his perfumes, is what I'm trying to say. I'm saying I've tried a handful of them. So I'm just trying to give a bit of room for when a shit one comes along and I go, oh, yeah, I never said all his were good. This one was shit. So I've got a bit of a get out.
He did the first Memoirs of a Perfume Collector range. Right. I don't know if you tried those, but they're really fucking good. They're really good. And I think Harry's destined for great things.
Oh, absolutely.
Critically well received, weren't they? The Memories of a Perfume Collector thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway, so that's good. Then I wore Chanel Paris Edinburgh. Which, I mean, is anyone familiar with that? It's in that collection of like Chanel spritzy things. It's
part of. Yeah, go ahead, Fliss. Sorry.
They're all quite
thin.
Yes. Yeah. In comparison to the exclusive range, I find them a bit.
Yeah, they were all very watery, but I think they are, as you say, I mean, spritzy is exactly the right word. They are just meant to be like freshener upper type things. They're not they're not proper perfumes.
Well, I got that. It's rare that you get discount on Chanel, but they always seem to be discounted, and they're already cheap anyway, because you get a big like 100 or 150ml bottle or something for like less than 100 quid, I think. Or I think I got it for about. I want to say it was like 70 quid or something, because it was like, there's always offers on these Chanels anyway. I think they're all very good. And yeah, you've just got to get over that kind of thing. And I would say this Edinburgh one is probably one of the stronger ones. It's not dissimilar to Bedo Chez Noir. Try it and let me know what you think, because it's like junipery. It's very sort of gin and tonic-y. It's got that like that kind of quality to it, but it's also quite herbal and green. It's wonderful. In fact, it really is worth a try. I'll send you a sample. I'll knock some samples up.
Grooving.
Then the day before that was also another bangingly heavy day. So we
are genuinely working backwards here, aren't we?
We are. So this was Thursday.
I'm not sure I can notice the difference, though.
Yeah,
it's only you that notices the difference.
Well, only because normally, in between the perfumes, he says, "and then I wore," and now he's saying, "and then the day before that I wore."
It's actually taking longer because he's got more words.
Well, there are more words, but it's also like, I don't know, it's just fucking with my brain. The whole thing is just some sort of like subterfuge designed to like just mess around with my OCD, I think.
Okay. Anyway, so this will mess with you even more. So on, I'm thinking, wow, it's muggy today. Fuck me, it's hot and shit. What am I going to wear?
When you say today, you mean like 4 days ago, don't you?
Thursday of last week. So I wore Yves Saint Laurent Koros, but the aftershave toner. So vintage Koros aftershave toner. Slap a load of that on, probably about 8 sprays. I was stinking all day.
I was going to say, you wore Koros, even a light on a hot day. You fucking beast.
That is like there's a sort of like an antisocial sort of angle there, isn't there? It's like fuck all of you. Very good.
Yeah. So that was me on Thursday, and then on Wednesday I wore Frederic Malle Iris Poudre. Iris Poudre, which is fucking divine and delightful, and total contrast to the day after when I wore the Koros. I just.
Oh no!
Can we go back next week just doing them in order again?
This is some Benjamin Button shit. I'll be a fucking baby at the end of this.
It's like that. What was that fucking terrible movie recently that was like where time was moving? In
oh no, that M. Shyamalamalan one. And they live in their fucking lives backwards and shit. It was called. Remember. It was dog shit. Oh no,
that wasn't the one I was thinking about. It was.
There's another one.
I was thinking about. I was thinking about the. It was all very. Oh, Fliss has interrupted me with some spritzing. I can't even remember now. But it really fucked with my head to the point that I couldn't fucking get my brain around it at all. And now you are fucking just messing with me.
Okay, cool anecdote, brah.
Right, fuck you. I am now going to look up. I'm now going to find the name of that movie because it's pissed me off.
Okay, cool. Iris Poudre is like the most beautiful Chanel, but it's even better. Like that kind of like really dreamy, sort of floaty iris, but like it's got some like guts underneath, but it's kind of modern. It's just really stunning. It is stunning.
Tenet.
Love it.
Tenet.
And I bought it.
The movie was called Tenet.
Oh, Tenet, the what's his face one?
Nolan. Nolan.
Yeah,
I hadn't. Go on, tell me you loved that movie.
I loved it. Yeah, I only saw it once in the pictures, but
did you know what was going on?
By the end, yeah, and sort of stewing over it in my head, I was like, yeah, I do sort of get it, but it is quite a mind-bending sort of thing. I'd like to see it again.
I watched about 2/3 of it and was like, I have no idea what is going on. I cannot watch this anymore, and I just turned it off. And that is what your fucking full 13 is doing to me. It's the day before, the day after, and then following this, I was last Thursday. What?
So then, before the Iris Poudre, I'd worn on the Tuesday. I wore Ralph Lauren's Safari, which is an old
fucking
favourite.
Yes. What was that? Oh, hang on. Fliss doesn't look happy with that.
No, I was just like, that's a good one. And I was just thinking actually of the ladies' version as well, which is also a stunner. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I've ever tried the women's one, but the men's one's fucking great.
Can I just say that the old version of it, the Cosmere fucking version, is no better. I'll just put it out there, right? I'll just put it out there.
I don't. I mean, I think I've told you this. I got like a Cosmere bottle for like 18 quid or something, which is about the same price as the current one. And I haven't got a current one to compare it to. But I'll be honest, the Cosmere one, it's not like you spray that with like 2 sprays and you're set for 6 weeks. It's like no, it's sort of it's gone in a few hours. It's just it's lovely perfume. It's just not very strong. That's all.
Yeah, well, this is it, and I'm pretty much seared into my brain from because I remember it because my dad went to Saudi Arabia or somewhere in the Middle East, and he flew on Emirates, and this was when Emirates wasn't affiliated with Arsenal or what I mean. No one fucking knew who Emirates were unless you flew in that part of the world, and he got a free bottle because they just they give stuff away in the when he just flew with them, he'd just come out with loads of cool stuff, and it wasn't even wasn't like a little shitty travel size thing or anything. It was like a full shave kit, and I don't know if he nicked them. I mean, maybe he nicked them, who knows? But he just would come and he'd be like, oh yeah, I've got this, and I just ended up having it, and that must have been in the 90s or whatever when it came out. And I honestly can't tell any difference now because I'm just I think the new one is just as good. Just spray more of it if it's not quite as strong. As far as the experience is concerned, it takes me back to when I originally had that perfume. whether it's as strong or not, it still gives me the same vibes.
The original just isn't very strong. I mean,
Right.
I'm almost certain that you are quite right. The current version is every bit as good. But
okay,
anywho.
Cool. Well, let's talk about current versions being every bit as good, because this is a 1975 perfume that I wore the day before, which was Clinique Aromatics Elixir, which we have talked about before on here, and I was like, oh, I'm going to wear that next week, and then we're going to talk about it like some more. And then I looked for my bottle, and I couldn't find the fucking thing anywhere, right? And I was really annoyed, because I was like, where's my fucking Aromatics Elixir? And I had a small bottle, and it was a vintage, or like one that I'd bought, like a second-hand one years ago, and I never really wore it very much because I knew it was a good perfume, but I was kind of like, when do you wear that sort of thing? And so I bought it again because you fucking enabled me go into that shop, and I basically bought the new version 100ml bottle, and it's incredible. It's incredible. It's like,
is it a masterpiece?
Might just be, but it's got this like rough and ready sort of edge. I'm not going to go too much into it because a lot of people know, but I see it as a violet perfume, but like a kind of really full on, like heavy violet perfume. And my mum said, like commented, she got in the car and went, my, like, bear in mind, 77-year-old mother turns around to me and goes, you smell like an old woman today, you do. I was like, thanks. That's usually a good sign, right? If anyone says that to you. But she goes, no, it reminds me of like cotty, like a shitty, like, because, and then my sister started going, oh, did you not have Chanel? And so she's like, Chanel? We never, couldn't afford Chanel and all this. And she was going on about like Yardley perfumes and stuff that reminded her of this, that, and the other. And anyway, it's a really powdery, like Sheeper-esque, but like really heavy sort of vibes, and then loads of violet, but it's not like that ethereal, like, ooh, slightly creepy violet that you get in stuff. It's like a full-on, like it's just amazing. And then later on, it turns into this like ambery thing, and you get all the amber from like the base, and it smells a bit like Sheeper Palatin, a little bit. It's not as like powdery, and it's not as like poofy and nice. I said it was like the kind of, it's like the sort of common people's, I don't know how much like Clinique is sort of like, it's probably quite a, high-ish sort of brand, but it feels to me like it's like an accessible thing, like a sort of stepping stone to that, like to go to like have Mitsuko and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like a really nice, like it's like perfume for the people sort of thing.
Perfume for the people.
That's what I feel about it.
I bought it last week
Proletariat perfume.
On the strength of you banging on about it. I bought myself one off eBay, and it was supposedly a vintage one. And when it arrived, it had turned completely, and so I got my money back. But I was a bit gutted. Otherwise, I'd be able to join in this conversation.
Get a new one.
Maybe I'll just get a new one then.
I think it was maybe 60 quid for the 100ml.
I don't think that much. But yeah.
Well, there you go. Just get a 50 or a 30 or whatever. The bottle I had before was small.
I think there's like 25ml for 20 quid. I'm just looking on eBay now.
Oh well, if you get a nice one, I can't like say enough good things about it. It was amazing. Okay. The fact that the experience was so different from like the start 4 hours or 5 hours to the last bit is like, it's just amazing. And then you get these like a bit like Rocas Femme or something. You get slightly cumin-y, but it's not dead animal and not dead big and over the top. It's just a wonderful perfume, and nobody will not smell you, right? You're going to be like, it's a quite a statement sort of like perfume, and you've got to be prepared to have people think, fuck, it smells like an old woman, but that is not a diss.
They usually think that about me anyway, so that'll be no different.
Well, exactly. Anyway, so then I'd worn another YSL Chorus, but the Cologne Tonic. So every few years they do these Cologne tonics, and it's a slightly aquatic, I they're vaguely related to Kouros, but it's nothing really like Kouros. But it's still very good. Kind of salty, aquatic, latter day Kouros vibes. Just better than a lot of the shite that was, around at the time, and just a good perfume, I think. Then I wore Estee Lauder Tender Light, which we'd been talking about, which was another one that I just bought. It's got a very nutty, it's a kind of nutty iris with like sweet notes and like really fresh, like bergamot-y type top note. And then it's quite a modern, cheap-ish smelling perfume. And I don't want to diss it in any way because I think it's really good. You might smell it and go, oh, there's quite a few quite average, like probably more feminine leaning perfumes like this. I think it's very, very good though. Like I say, that nuttiness just gets more as it kind of dries down. It's not overly like offensive. It's not even overly like iris really, but it's just a really nice, warm, Tender Light is a perfect name for it. But it's not like luxury in any way. And that was about 40 quid for, I think, 50 mil or something like that. So pretty good. Then MDCI Chypre Palatine, which we're all very well acquainted with. I won't speak about that. But I often wear that when I'm going out. So that was a Friday night. We were going out. And it was a lot of the time I sit down in a restaurant and somebody about 3 tables away will go, someone smells really nice in here. And I'm like, that's me. So anyway, then I wore Frederic Malle L'Eau de Hiver, which is a new addition to my wardrobe. Never one that I liked, to be honest. I was always like, not really feeling this. But this is where we come back and possibly foreshadow the thing we're going to talk about in the second half and all that kind of stuff. Of sometimes there is like a nondescript perfume that you think, oh, it's why is this such a big seller? Like that L'Immensity one from Louis fucking what's his face, Louis Vuitton. Then there's Louis Vuitton, and then there's that other one by Dior that's really popular in France, their biggest seller in France. Anybody?
Sauvage?
No, it's kind of irisy one in the Privé collection.
Oh, Bois d'Argent.
Coacham redid it.
Bois d'Argent.
Bois d'Argent. Yeah, that one. So those kind of perfumes, which you're like, yeah, they're all right. And then you wear them and you go, oh, actually, they're really fucking nice. And at first you get that kind of like, there's nothing really there, but there's a lot more depth there. That's exactly what L'Eau de Hiver is all about. To me, it felt like that kind of horrible hand cream, vetiver vibe that you get in like loads of perfumes that go, oh, this is a vetiver perfume. And it's like soapy, really like, it reminds me of that kind of like that hand cream that like macho kind of men are okay with because it's like Norwegian fishermen put it on their hands and stuff because they don't want to be a fucking Nancy boy. So they'll go, oh yeah, like Norwegian fishermen use this. They put a little fucking Norwegian flag on it so it's like okay to use. You know what I mean? That sort of smell, I can't, I didn't never liked. And then I kind of came around to sort of being like, oh, I quite like that. And then I got the sort of vetiver like thing of it, and I'm like, oh, that's quite a clever thing. Anyway, it reminded me a bit of that, but it's not a vetiver at all. It's not a vetiver at all. It's kind of an iris, but it's like this really strange construction. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. I'm fucking loving that perfume. So it's Jean-Claude Helena. Sorry.
Was this one of the ones that you bought at the Estee Lauder outlet place?
Yeah, so yeah, it's your fault again.
Thank you.
No, I should be thanking you because I thought to myself, they've got this one. I've always been on the fence about this one. It's a Jean-Claude Helena. And I just thought, fuck it, you know what, I'll buy it. I wore it on my skin, totally different. Amazing day, amazing like progression of this like really subtle perfume that's got loads of, it's just pure like Jean-Claude Helena doing like the best stuff for Mal. And it's great. So I love that. Then Theophenol scent, which we've all talked about, we all love, we all know. So I've had quite a heavy hit in a couple of weeks. And then all the way back,
can I just say,
the womb. Sorry,
I tried the EDT of that this week. Actually,
yeah.
Somebody sent it to me because I put the EDP on my Insta, and they said, "Oh, I've got the EDT," and I really like it, and it's different enough to have both. It's slightly lighter. I think it's peachier. It's not quite as heavy. There's a little bit fruitier to it, and I'm seriously thinking of getting myself an EDT version as well.
Wow.
I think in terms of it of being slightly more wearable, it's just sniffing it now.
Here we go. EDTs are going to sell out now.
There'll be a rush on that. Someone messaged me on Instagram the other day and asked if I could suggest a good fennel scent, and it was all I could do to not say Theofennel, the scent, but no, I pointed them at some aniseedy type stuff.
Okay, sorry. So one more. It's Tom Ford for Men. And that was it.
Tom Ford for Men. Very good.
Do you know it? Do you like it?
I don't know if I do know it. I know the Tom Ford Extreme, which I think is meant to be similar to that. Or maybe I have tried. Is it the one in the transparent-ish sort of bottle?
It's just the kind of ambery coloured juice in the same bottle as that Extreme one, with like kind of ribs on it, in a sort of frosted glass bottle.
Yeah. So, but it's a clear frosted rather. But it's not a coloured one. It's is that right? White frosted bottle? I don't know. Transparent. My brain is not working because you fucked with it with all this.
I think you've
reverse chronology. What is is it synesthesia? Is that the thing where you sort of you see? Well, no, everyone sees colours. That's how you take it.
You hear colours. You see sounds.
Yeah. I'm
like a mushroom trip.
Yeah. I'm seeing things with like my actual eyes and all that. Oh, fucking hell. I feel like my brain has just sort of slowly ground to a halt this evening. Okay, is that the end of your full 13?
It is.
This is a cursed collection.
Yeah, it is.
All right, in terms of news, I'm semi loath to bring this up, but I feel like I want to. There was a thing on Fragrantica the other day. There was a discussion. Somebody posted a discussion article about the new Le Mal, not Frederic Mal. The new Jean-Paul Gaultier Le Mal, and something to do with Pride month. And I didn't actually see the article, but then there was a huge amount of absolutely fucking appalling, like vitriolic sort of anti-trans, anti-fucking gay, anti-basically anything type nonsense on there. And this seemed to be allowed to go on by the editors, who in fact contributed to this fucking absolute fuckfest before finally the post got deleted. And I only sort of know about it because Chronotope, I think I sent you guys the link to it, but Chronotope posted a bunch of screenshots of some of the comments on Instagram. That shit was fucking vile, and it's hard to believe the fucking editorial team didn't just go, this is a bad one, we better fucking close this shit down right now.
I mean, is it hard to believe, David? But interestingly, I heard a podcast recently, I don't know if it's going off topic too much, but it was saying that because like the right wing in America have basically lost the argument on same-sex marriage, they're weaponizing the idea of like trans rights instead. That's like the new same-sex marriage because they've lost that argument. So this is the new one. And it's becoming more and more normal to basically like complain about, the polite arguments are like, you don't want women in men's sports or men in women's sports or things like that. But actually there's a seething undercurrent beneath that's basically just the same as it always has been, which is bigoted arseholes, knuckle-dragging fools, thinking that their views are should be aired publicly when they shouldn't. They should be buried in the fucking dirty hole that they belong in.
Dirty hole.
I think probably that's about what I've got to say on that.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a few articles, discussion pieces on Fragrantica with some pretty fucking sinister shit in. There was there was one a while back where someone had made a comment about Rothschild, and then I think James, you sort of sent me that link, and yeah, it was all just a little bit fucking, I don't know, too much conspiracy bullshit and, like, you know, absolute crap. I just don't think the editorial team are doing a good enough job there, is the bottom line. I mean,
it is about their politics. If something aligns with them, they don't seem to be too arsed about taking it down.
But it's kind of shocking, though, isn't it, that the perfume community, I mean, as any creative community, and is so diverse, so full of, you know, just the splendid array of humanity, for them not to acknowledge that and to allow hate speech against a group of people who are perfumers, shop owners, just enjoyers of the industry, irrespective of whether you're going to treat people as actual people, but you just thinking just really coldly in terms of, you know, financially in the industry that they're in. It kind of shocks me that even from the most coldest, you know, shit place, that they couldn't even see how hurtful and vile it is, let alone just on a human level how vile it is. Just I find it weird.
I mean, I've come to accept long ago that lots of people have different fucking opinions on stuff, and some of it, you know, there's plenty of room for debate on lots of things. But you know, if you cannot be kind, right, then you know, it shouldn't. It just shouldn't be aired.
I think there's another, like, underlying thing to it, where a lot of the time there's a lot of people who want to say, let's shut this down because it's about perfume, it's not about politics, right? Whereas, like, everything is political, isn't it? Like, and I think we've sort of touched on this before, that it you can't help but express it, like, especially in, like, an art form. So I think to kind of dismiss it and go, oh no, and often it's a kind of handy thing for people with, like, sort of more, like, right wing, like, whatever they would call it, like, conservative sort of, like, views, to express things that, again, I don't even really think that what was said particularly was that bad. Am I bad for thinking that? I don't know. I just thought it was like...
Yeah, I mean, it was bad. But what I don't understand is, what was the trigger? What was the actual trigger in the first place? Because I didn't get that, because I saw the screenshots and I figured it was about a Jean-Paul Gaultier perfume, but I couldn't understand why the comments were being made.
So I
anyway.
think it. My understanding is that the original article was written from a gay man's perspective about the about how you know, this was a very sort of seminal fragrance, and you know, had a particularly sort of emblematic position within the gay community, and tied it to Pride Month, which it is. And somebody basically just made a load of rather appalling, you know, anti-gay kind of fucking statements.
It was a lot more than just anti-gay though. It was a lot of anti-trans as well. And there's a lot of people saying, I'm not homophobic, but, and then, as you say, Ben, weaponizing, you know, this vile argument, you know, suggesting that you're not, you cannot be homophobic, but being transphobic is fine, basically. You can just move your hate along a little bit, and that's acceptable.
Were they? I like say, forgive me, because I maybe mustn't have read the comments properly, but I thought they were kind of saying that they don't like companies kind of doing that sort of, like, pride shit, essentially throwing, like, slapping rainbows,
cashing in on pride, basically. There's, like, a commercialization of pride, and I think that's, like, I think everyone possibly agrees on that there's, like, some company there's definitely a criticism these days, or a growing criticism of companies basically using the pride flag to they
use the pride flag to advertise their products, make money, and then not send any of that money that they've made based on the use of that flag for that month to, say, like Stonewall or or mental health charities, or anything like that. So there's a pride washing that happens.
Yeah. But that's not what the comments were about. Okay. There were a lot of comments there that were just absolutely vile. Well, and I can't imagine that you would have, if you read them properly. I can't see you, James, saying that they're okay.
Yeah,
I think they were.
I think there's some pretty nasty stuff there, and I guess look, just rather than us getting dragged too far into that, I guess the point from a news perspective was like, a little bit of controversy over Fragrantica, and I just, I wish they would do a better fucking job at moderating some of this stuff. I don't want to deep it too much anyway. I just wanted to raise it because I thought it was of interest. Is there any other news that you fuckers would like to raise or bring up? Nah. All right. Well, I know we have got an extremely energetic part 2 lined up. So why don't we go and gird our collective loins and...
loins is one of the worst words in the English language.
Is it? Yeah, no, I'm
I don't like them. How do you gird them?
I don't know. I don't like the word fluid. I don't like the word fluid for some reason.
You think fluid is worse than moist?
Ooh, moist. There's a variation on fluid, really, isn't it? Juice,
moist loins,
moist juice, loins, fluid. Yeah, they all have a horrible sound to them. I actually, it makes me wrinkle my face up in fucking disgust when I say the words. They're just, I don't know. Anyway, well, that was enough of my weird fucking brain problems.
No, the gird your loins comes all the way back from biblical times, and it's to do with...
Oh, good.
Yeah, but it's to do with... obviously, men were wearing long tunics at that time, and in order to get ready for battle, they would twist their long tunic up and through their legs and into their belts, so that they could then run into battle in a different way. There's a little.
They weren't all falling over.
There's a little.
It's a little
illustration
picture
of how you can gird your loins from your tunic, and then you've got. They're now like shorts, and that man's got a sword and he's running. There you go.
Yeah, they didn't think maybe we could design some better clothes for doing battle. No, you're just going to roll this up like a big,
tucking your bits under or whatever.
Yeah,
taping your nads.
Mangina, I believe, is the expression you're looking for there. Right. Other idioms will be researched and professed upon shortly, I am quite sure. In the meantime, why don't you lot fuck off, and we'll speak to you in just a few minutes for part 2. Stick with us. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Liz Oderants. If you did fuck off during the break, we're glad you fucked back. Thanks for sticking with us. So today we are talking about masterpieces. Now this idea was slightly triggered for me by a post that a friend of the show, Brandon, More Brand Sense, did on... I saw it on Instagram. I don't look at his TikTok. I know he's a big deal on TikTok, but I don't use TikTok. Anyway, he described the following perfume as a masterpiece. And it was Auto Parisi Bergamask. And I was like... I love Brandon, good lad, but I'm going to have to be real here and say Auto Parisi is a shitty range of perfume, and Bergamask isn't even the best one in that shitty range. To call Bergamask a masterpiece, to me, just fucking goes against everything I believe in. I mean, I couldn't. I just can't make that connection. I think it's a terrible, terrible perfume. It's just an obnoxious citrus musk fixative. Bleh. It's horrible. It's so tenacious. It's like some sort of nuclear effluent sprayed on your skin, and it doesn't smell any better than nuclear effluent.
Nuclear effluent. Fuck hell.
Well, I don't even know what that is. Is that a thing? It probably is.
No, I don't.
Yeah, sort of run off from some sort of nuclear power station. Anyway, it's nauseating, and it got me thinking. Well, what is a masterpiece then, and what are the criteria? And before I sort of ask you to name masterpiece perfumes, because maybe we'll get there, maybe we won't. I sort of wanted to know what you guys thought a masterpiece was, because I mean I don't even use the word to describe perfumes. I think it's and if interesting, I asked on Facebook how people would describe it, and someone said, well, it's just such a fucking hackneyed cliche, I would never use that word. It's extremely cringeworthy, and I'm sort of inclined to agree. It's a sort of lazy, reductive kind of word. We can do better, but there is a concept of masterpiece. What does it mean to you? Fliss, what does it mean to you?
Obviously, I looked it up, and then I thought about the definitions that I saw, and an outstanding work of art or craft, the greatest work of an artist, mm-hmm. and something superlative of its kind. And so I think those three were a really good starting block. And I thought in terms of perfumes, thinking of it in terms of art as well, I think being made by a master is... It's on the fucking tin, isn't it? Masterpiece. And there's something about the history of masterpieces were initially, before, this is way back in the etymology of the word. It was a piece of your craft, whether that was stonemasonry or art or whatever it was, that you created at the end of your journeyman time in order to get into a guild. So it was your apps, and you worked fucking hard, and all of the old guys would come and have a look at it and decide whether you were allowed in the guild or not. Yeah. And so
it's basically a thesis. It's sort of your thesis after years of study.
That kind of thing. And once you'd created it, and the old guys had said that yes, you get the stamp and you're allowed into the guild, you became a master. So that was your masterpiece. That's where the word comes from. And so then I think obviously it's moved on from there and stuff. And there's something about, I don't think it has to be made by a master perfumer, but I think it can be the pinnacle of someone's work. But that's being said, some people have got more than one masterpiece. I think it has to be pretty near faultless. I don't think it has to be timeless, because I think you can be a masterpiece of its time, and I think it can be something that was historically very 1940s or historically very 1960s. It doesn't have to necessarily still be worn now, but it is an exquisite example of a genre at that point. I don't think it has to be classically wearable, because I think there can be an audacity about a masterpiece that is creatively exciting. So I don't think it has to be classically wearable, but I do think it has to have something that grabs you, and you can't argue anything other than it's brilliant. But I also, in contrast to that, I don't think it has to be creatively original either, because I think it can build on the back of other things and be a pinnacle of a historical genre that's grown and grown and grown, and then someone's popped something on the top. If you know what I mean.
I've used this word before, just sorry to jump in. Apotheosis. I like to say that.
Apotheosis. I like to hear it.
Well, that's kind of like what you're describing there as like...
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of the actual definition. Like, I know what it means, but it's exactly a sort of culmination of all those things that you've said, and it probably relates more to a specific perfumer or whatever, but as being like the sort of pinnacle of their work, or a point in time, like you say, like all that stuff about the classical like painters and whatever trying to get into a guild, or all that sort of stuff is that's really like a fascinating angle on it, because like say I was just thinking the term masterpiece, I don't really tend to use it at all.
I don't think any of us do use it a lot, but I mean,
I probably have.
Notwithstanding, yeah. But I mean, for something to qualify as a masterpiece, my instinct, and it's only instinct because I don't think this is hard coded into any particular set of dogma or whatever, but it feels to me like there needs to be a body of work. Right, you cannot just be a one-trick pony and I fucking shat out a masterpiece here. There has to be a competent, well-regarded body of work, and the masterpiece is the thing that stands above everything else in the collection. But you cannot just fucking call something a masterpiece without the other things almost giving it the credentials to be the crowning glory. If you make 4,000 pieces of shit and one really good one, I don't think that can be a masterpiece because you've got 4,000 pieces of shit. You need to have.
Are you talking about
load of stuff that is not shit? I wonder what his masterpiece is. It's probably Fragrance 1, right? Jeremy Fragrance date.
No, he's got some. I mean, like you say, by law of averages, he must have some, and he does have some really creative perfumes, I must say. And not just that's even a criteria for being a masterpiece, but, yeah.
So, I mean, you said something interesting there, Fliss. You said lots of stuff that was interesting, but the one thing that grabbed me was that you said it didn't need to be creatively original, and I sort of, I think it has to move something on, though. It can't just be more of the same, but fucking, maybe a little bit better. It has to somehow move a genre on in some way.
I don't know if it does, though, or if it cannot just be an absolute exquisite example of a genre. That genre just done to fucking perfection.
Well, I mean, arguably doing something to perfection that hasn't been perfected before probably is moving it on in some way.
Yeah. I mean, there's a.
I guess what I don't want. What bothers me is do I leave the door open for clones to be masterpieces? I mean,
no. Why would you?
I don't think they can be. They don't think you can't have someone copying a Degas and then saying, and then their picture being the masterpiece, but you ignoring the Degas.
Yeah. So does that rule out everything Roger Dove has done? Because I mean, the thing is, I love a lot of Roger Dove perfumes. I don't think I could describe any of them as masterpieces because none of them, to me, really are very original. I mean, they are all immaculately executed, and I think you'd be hard pushed to find a bigger Roger Dove fan than me. So, I don't want anyone to sort of think that I'm slagging off the brand. But there is a fucking, there is an inconvenient truth at the heart of Roger Dove, which is that he's raided like the Guerlain back catalogue for inspiration for tons of things. And Chypre Extraordinaire, which is one of my favourite perfumes ever, and came up several times when I asked people on Facebook what a masterpiece was. Chypre Extraordinaire came up several times. Arguably, that's Mitsuko, right? And I would argue that Mitsuko is a masterpiece and Chypre Extraordinaire is not.
It's interesting that you mentioned Roger Dove because I was thinking Diaghilev, I think, is so close.
It's
And I was
also
like, but Chypre
Mitsuko,
Palatine.
yeah.
But Chypre Palatine pips it, and it's like they're, yeah. That's a really interesting point, actually. Can you say?
And then I started thinking about my beloved Invasion Barbar, which on almost every level of definition I can find, I would say that's a masterpiece. But then, and I'm sorry, Stephanie, if you're listening, but I don't think anything else Stephanie Bakouche has done, comes even close to it, in personal opinion. And so does Stephanie have the sort of the depth of catalogue required in order to make the one shining example a true masterpiece? And I got myself into a frightful pickle over this and thought,
I can tell, Dan.
I'm really upset by this. So anyway, those are my opinions. I'll have others if you like.
I think it's interesting what you say about the Stephanie Bakouche thing, because it's in the old classical term for what a masterpiece was. You could argue that actually Invasion Barbar came at the end of a journeyman period, and so in terms of an older explanation of what a masterpiece is, you could say it fits, because if you presented that to a bunch of master perfumers and said, what do you think of that? Is she allowed in the guild? I would imagine they would go, yeah, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, she's allowed in.
Yeah, exactly. She knows what the fuck she's doing. She can come in you come, Steph.
Yeah, have some of this.
Yeah, but I know what you mean, though. I really do.
Ben, you look like you want to say something.
Well, I've just been listening to you guys, really, but because interesting, I think my definition is probably quite simple, really, and a lot simpler than your guys'. It's like I don't use it lightly, and I don't think it's a term that you can throw around. And like you say, it is often like lazy and reductive, and I agree with that completely. But for me, I feel like a masterpiece is just like, I think someone can come in and do a one and done and just do like one perfume and fucking leave, and it can be a masterpiece, and I think that's fine. For me, the way I would judge it is just like, if I smell it and I think this is objectively good, it's not just because I like it. Like there's a difference to me between a perfume that I like and a perfume that is fucking good, right? And I think there's a certain degree of originality has to be there, and like you say, like moving something forward. But really, I think if I smell it and I just think, no, this is an objectively good perfume, it's not good because I like it or because the neighbour likes it or the lady down the street likes it. It's good because it's just a good perfume, like objectively speaking. And I think that's how I probably judge it, like that. Like, because you can tell when a perfume is just that fucking good, right? It's just, I don't know. I don't really think of it any deeper than that, really. I just feel like when you almost like, it sounds a bit stupid and it's not helpful on a podcast where we talk, but
so basically you're saying this is a shit episode.
No, but I'm just saying, like, when you know. Do you know what I mean? You smell it and you go, yeah that's it.
That's it. Yeah, fair enough.
And how would do you then see a difference then between something that is just objectively good and something which is objectively fucking excellent?
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like when you smell it, you know. Do you know what I mean? You just smell it and you go, yeah, that's beyond. Like it's
that beyond. So there is a beyondness to it.
It's like everyone like it's just brilliant. Like, I don't know. Maybe I haven't really tried to put it in.
So maybe Brandon is right, and that it's okay to say that. I forget what the fucking name of the perfume is. It's so awful. But what was it called again?
Bergamask. Which just makes me think
of
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like some kind of like
Zorro
burger meat on your face, like a.
So I actually like Bergamask. I think it's all right. I would not,
really?
But I would not class it anywhere near. It's for me an average perfume. Like it's to call it a masterpiece is a bit weird. Like I don't. For me, see when I say look, when you smell it and you know, like there's nothing in Bergamask that makes me think like, wow, this is like seminal. This is like like everybody must enjoy this at least on a level of accepting that it's good, because it's pretty base, really.
It's nasty. Yeah. So, what about and I had some difficulty with this, but I think I am reconciled to them probably both qualifying. Aventus and Baccarat Rouge 540 as masterpieces. Set aside the fact that you don't like them.
I would probably say Aventus is, to be honest. I think Aventus is. I don't know I don't know if I would classify Baccarat Rouge, but Aventus I probably would.
I don't know. Yeah, I think I agree with Ben. I think just because something is universally popular, that's not the same as a masterpiece.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, just because.
What was that noise?
No, go on.
In fact, sometimes if everybody likes it, I would say it's almost definitely not a masterpiece because there's something about. This is maybe me then, and now I'm going to sound like a fucking snob.
Yeah.
But there's something
plebby.
Yeah.
Like, can commercialism ever truly be a masterpiece?
Can commercialism ever be a masterpiece? That's exactly you have explained it very well, Ben, and I feel much better and I'm less snobby. But yes, that was what I was trying to say.
Yeah. Go on, James.
No, no.
Go for it.
But in the case of Leighton, no. In the case of Cedric Vazzi, no. In the case of something like Bergamask that we were talking about there, I mean, fuck no, dude. Do you know what I mean? Like, that just is like, nah, mate, nah. But like, in the case of the two that you mentioned, yes and yes.
Aventus and
Baccarat Rouge 540, and I don't have any proof of this. Again, this is just me going on. But from a technical point of view, I believe that there's other perfumers going, what a simple fucking thing that he's done there, right? What a simple thing that he's done there. But he's captured the imagination of all these people. And they might be plebs, and they might be people who don't know anything about perfume, etc., etc. But there's something magic about that perfume. Whether you like, I don't particularly like it. It's too sweet. It's too weird, but whatever. But from a technical aspect and looking at like different like formulas of it and things that come out, it's a really thrifty use of materials that were always there, and he's brought them together in overdoses and different levels that are just like completely thinking outside of the box. Don't want to sound like some fucking marketing wanker who's like, you know, as hackneyed as fuck talking about, you know, Patreon. I'd have to say that in my categorization of if we really have to go down this route of masterpieces, you've got to say Baccarat Rouge, and certainly for even Kirkshan's career, which is pretty glittering, really, in terms of like success. Again, whether you like his perfumes or not, and I think Baccarat Rouge has to be included because it is. And definitely,
it's so interesting that you say about the simplicity, though, because I was thinking about this today. That thing we both were saying about the simplicity. I was like, can you then call Molecule 1 a masterpiece because it's so audaciously simple? And I was like, is that just like that dude who just paints all the pictures like those
like
big,
Rothko or something?
You know, Rothko. Is it just like a Rothko?
I know what you mean.
You know, well, does that count?
It's again, it's all down to this subjective like criteria of, do you consider it a masterpiece? And we're trying to be more objective and say what is generally a masterpiece. And I think the molecules, funnily enough, because I was sort of made to write a list, I kind of had to, and that was on there. However, it's not the actual perfume itself that I think, oh, this is such a great masterpiece. It's the concept.
The conceptual. The concept. Yeah, and this is where it then goes back to what Dan was saying about it has to move something on.
Yeah, and that did.
And it is audaciously creative to have fuck all in there apart from one molecule, one beautiful molecule. And it moved on the industry for just, you know, huge amounts of stuff is riding on that coattails of that.
And I think there's a good argument that actually you look at what follows in the wake of something to make an assessment. And you know, Aventus, Baccarat Rouge have both spawned vast sort of arrays of kind of clones, inspirations, evolutions thereof. But before them, I don't think there was anything really that smelt like what they like what they were when they came into being. They have created the market, and the same I think is true for Molecule 01. The same is definitely not true for Bergamask. I just in 5 years' time, we're not going to be talking about the fucking en masse fucking variants of like 15 different clones of Bergamask. They'll just be Bergamask. That'll be that. Anyway, yeah, mind you, I don't think there's all clones of Bloody Invasion Barbar either, and I am slowly getting around to making my case for it. Interesting, though, that we have there our first, we should have a little bell, our first actual masterpiece declared by James. Was it Molecule 01?
No, I said
just
Aventus, Baccarat Rouge, and I'd consider all of those.
Excellent.
So I'm pretty easy when it comes to say. I mean, one of mine was CK1.
Yeah,
Am I not allowed to have that?
No, I think that's an absolute masterpiece. I think if you argued against that, I think you'd be a moron. I think you would be an absolute moron.
Right,
come on, Dan.
Well, hold my beer. No, I don't know whether I don't think I care enough about it.
The thing is I think the thing with the CK1 is, are you taking it in context or as just a smell? Because how can you not look at what CK1 did in the 90s and think, wow, that was impressive? Like, it had something, because it was just... I don't think I've known Kurosh.
See, this is when I said earlier...
Close to it in terms of, like, it's just being everywhere.
Changing the zeitgeist. Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, so that when I said earlier about it doesn't have to be timeless, it can be a masterpiece of its time. You could argue then that CK1 is definitely that thing, just because we wouldn't wear it now. It's like looking back at an old film or maybe a painting and going, I can see why at that time it was amazing, but it looks a bit clunky now, or I wouldn't have it on my wall now,
Yeah, no,
that's
I
okay
think
too.
That's probably how I think of CK1 as well, is it thinking of it in its time. I've got to go. My dog's just nicked something and he's going to choke on it and die if I don't get it off him.
Oh.
Don't let that happen. So interesting, isn't it, how you choose to define? Because I think there's something as well that's different about a seminal perfume and a masterpiece. And
they're not the same thing. No. I don't think they're the same thing.
They're not, are they?
I think
they are, and I think you can...
You said previously that you didn't think it had to be timeless, but I think for
seminal
something to
suggests
be
that it kind of does, in a sense.
I think seminal doesn't have to be either, does it? Just have to be something that moves and changes.
I think for something to be a masterpiece, it does have to stand the test of time. You have to still look back at it and say that was brilliant. Maybe you don't want to wear it today. That's fine. Yeah. But you still need to be able to look back and say, do you know what? When you watch a movie and you go, that has not aged well, right? And I don't think masterpieces suffer from the problem of not aging well. Is, I guess, what I'm saying. You should be able to pull it out, not like that. You should be able to get it off your shelf, pull it out, and sort of, I guess, re-engage with it and say, still fucking brilliant, still brilliant. I mean, maybe I don't want to wear it today, but still brilliant. So Fliss, hit me with a masterpiece, an indisputable Fliss special masterpiece.
My first masterpiece that I chose is Chypre Palatin MDCI by Bertrand Duchefort, 2012.
Nah, shit that.
I think in terms of the body of work of Bertrand Duchefort, the huge range of the amount of things that he's produced, and I think Chypre Palatin stands as a gold standard to his ability as a perfumer, and I think it's fucking stunning. I think it just... I can't even talk about it because I love it so much.
Does it make you emotional?
In terms of it does, actually. I remember smelling it for the first time, and I'd never smelt anything like it. Physically changed the temperature of my skin, and my heart began to race. I had goosebumps. I couldn't cope with the idea of not having some, and it quickly became a very ride or die for me. And it just became the emotional connection is just really strong, but it's also I've lived with it and through it as well, in terms of it still does that. And I still think that it does stand on the back of a lot of other things, of a lot of other warm amber chypres, but at the same time, it also stands apart from them. And there's a quality to it that I just think is indisputably excellent. And I think that it will still be indisputably excellent in 10 years' time, 20 years' time. You'll be able to look back on it. And I just think there's something magical about it. And even if you don't like it, you cannot say that it's shit.
Well,
you might say that you don't like it.
I'm going to say it's shit.
Exquisitely created.
No, it's shit. What a load of bollocks. No,
what don't you like about it?
I'm of course kidding. No, I'm kidding. I'm a kid.
I was like, fuck, fight me.
No, I think it's a brilliant call. It's an amazing perfume, and it fulfills almost... Well, I think it fulfills all the criteria I would hold for a masterpiece. You know, there has to be an established body of work. You know, Bertrand Duchefort has a formidable oeuvre, if that's the word. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Oeuvre? Yeah, he's got... And this sort of stands atop his oeuvre like a shimmering... I wanted to say pussy leather, but that's not that.
It's just a beacon of wonderment.
A beacon of fuck. That's what.
A beacon of fucking wonderment.
Right, good. Yeah, I'm happy with that. James, are you happy with Chypre Palatin as a masterpiece?
Absolutely, it is. I just adore it, and it's quite. You get quite a lot of different things from it at different times, and what I like about it is that he's taken what is quite let's do quite a classical perfume. If either you take that as being it's like an ambery big resin sort of like spicy amber perfume, or is it a Chypre powdery very sort of diffusive and whatever, but it's both those things. But it's also it feels very like meticulous. Like I think Bertrand Duchefort's sort of way of working apparently is very methodical, and you kind of can feel that. But it's also very modern, and a lot of his stuff. So it kind of encapsulates everything that he does into a perfume, which smells like two different classical genres, which could be on par with your Mitsukos and your Shalimars and whatever we're talking about. It's all of those things, right? And that makes it a masterpiece, as far as I'm concerned.
Cool. Ben, what do you reckon?
I think it falls into the category for me, personally, of a perfume that I would look at and think this is objectively good. It's not really something that I fall head over heels for, but I smell it and go, yeah, this is fucking good. Like, I'm probably not going to buy it. I'm probably not really going to wear it ever again. But like, it's
dude knows what he's doing.
Good.
Dude that made this.
And so, like, whilst I don't really have I don't feel like I have a lot of experience wearing it enough to really say like, yes, it's a masterpiece or not. And I don't think I would ever get to that point. I know that it's good enough for me to sort of accept that you three do think so, if you know what I mean, without any friction at all. It's like, yeah, clearly it's like, okay, yeah, it's good. So yeah, I think, yeah, don't really have any arguments.
Happy.
Yeah.
Can I just throw one in the ring that nobody's tried? So it's not going to be a very useful discussion, sorry. But I can't stop thinking about it. And
so is this one of your like masterpieces?
Yeah, it's like a you know, you're in that kind of, you know, early sort of phase of a relationship, and you know, you kind of the person's on your mind a lot of the time. It's a bit like that. But this was like years ago that I tried this. Anyway, I don't know where I was trying to go with that. I was trying to go a bit sexy, but I'm a bit worse for wear, so we won't go down that route. So no, what it is, it's
Missed
called.
out on his dogging session this morning.
Yeah, unfortunately, fucking kids, fucking tennis bullshit. Right? No, basically, yeah, Patreon. Basically, it's by. So it's a perfume by Paul Schutz called Tears of Eros, not to be confused with Eros by Versace, which is
Versace's masterpiece.
Yeah. No, this is a masterpiece, right? Because Paul Schutz is I think he's a German guy. He lives in the UK. He's an indie perfumer. All his perfumes are interesting and pretty good, by the way. But that one is like nothing I've ever smelled before in my life, right? It reminds me of, imagine Eddie from Iron Maiden. Like, imagine like the Trooper cover or something, but he's like got a huge like bunch of hyacinths, right? And he's just like running like, that's what it's like. It's like heavy metal hyacinth, right? And it's insane, right? Because I don't even really like hyacinth perfumes particularly, but this one was just like, this is just madness, and it's brilliant. And maybe that's just a personal one to me or whatever, but I think objectively, and I've spoken to a few people, you know, in the industry and stuff who've tried it and whatever, and they're all like, yeah, it's totally under the radar. No one even knows about it. Let's get the Schultz like samples and do a thing on Schultz on this show, because that is a fucking mad perfume, and it's got me to the point where I'm like, I definitely want that. So I'm going to get that at some point, because it's just wonderful. And there you go. There can be. He's got a collection of like what 6-8 perfumes, I don't know, and he's got one there that is just an absolute head and shoulders like banger, you know, above the others, in my opinion. So there's an example. And he's clearly somebody who thinks about it. I don't know, like visual art, and you know, it's very like, you can tell he's like a real artist, you know, and it really comes across in the perfumes, I think. So yeah, I think that guy's pretty talented dude.
So I'm still just visualizing you with burgers over your eyes. the Bergamask.
You know, a Bergamask is actually a dance from northern Italy.
No, I didn't know that.
It goes from Shakespeare. Yeah, they used to have it. Originates pre-Shakespearean times. So often the term Bergamask occurs in Shakespearean plays, and it means a frolicking dance.
Frolicking.
There you go.
Quite into the word frolicking. I like that. It's a good one. Okay. Ben, you've been awful quiet. Do you have a masterpiece for me?
Yes. So shall I? I'll go with the one that let's go with Oud Infinity Deceiver is for me like unquestionable, like undisputable. Like there's like a queue of stinky oud fragrances, right? If we sort of use that as a genre, right?
Yeah.
And they've been doing this for about 20 years now, where like, and then Oud Infinity just comes along and says, yeah, I can do that, and I can do it better than you've all done it up until now. And I'm wearing it today, which has made me laugh throughout the whole first session of this recording session, where we're saying, oh, muggy day, wearing heavy fragrances. I've been wearing Oud Infinity, baby, all day. And you know what? It's fucking glorious. It's just majestic. And I just think...
You're a wild man. You know that.
But the thing is, I think this fragrance too often gets reduced to the fact that it's a smelly oud and that's it. But it's so much more. Like the orange blossom and the civet is just incredible together. They work so well as like a pair. It just elevates it above anything else that's a stinky oud. It just says like, yeah, I'll take your stinky oud and I will... And I think it says something about how perfect this is that they couldn't get the oud anymore, so she just went, fuck it, I'll just discontinue it, despite the fact that no doubt this is, I'm quite sure this is probably her bestseller. Like, they just went, fuck it, like, let's just discontinue it, because I'm not going to change the, I'm not going to compromise the
for all the
or whatever.
stuff you've said about the other elements of the perfume, and absolutely valid, because if it was just a stinky oud and it was this particular material, however, I think that it's so indicative of the material that she's using that if she did change the oud, it wouldn't be that perfume. And that's one of the pitfalls with using oud, because no matter how much you embellish it or put other stuff with it, it's the whole point of using a really good oud is that you get the character of it. And if you lose that, it's not the same perfume.
I think it's amazing. And I think I've got it here, right? And I just think everything about it, even, I know these coffrets, right, are often crap, right? Like, they look nice, like in a picture, but when you get them, they're cheap and they're tacky. It's not. It's fucking beautiful. Everything about this perfume is fucking beautiful. I've even got a signed bottle, and even that's fucking beautiful. Like, it's incredible. Everything about this perfume is majestic.
He's a fanboy.
I am.
He's blushing slightly. His face he's picked up colour.
I've picked up some colour. I'm not like a vampire for once. No, it's just incredible. I just think it's amazing. I just think everything about it. And I think the smell, I think it gets better and better. And like, even today on a muggy day, it still works. And like, now, it smells fucking fantastic. There's no poo, there's no stank. It just smells like beautiful, like musky orange blossom. And it's amazing. Now, I know that not everyone thinks so. So,
well, so that I think is the really interesting point about a perfume like Oud Infinite, is that whether or not it's Decita's most commercially successful, I don't know. It may well be, but does it have broad mass appeal? Is it gonna have the same sort of appeal to the masses as something like, I don't know, Aventus or Baccarat Rouge? No, of course not. Never. But the artfulness of it, the sheer sort of craftsmanship, I think is absolutely worthy of Masterpiece. And I don't even, well, I do like it, but I didn't enjoy wearing it. It was too difficult for me, but it was like fucking, I don't know, it was like wrestling with a fucking a brilliantly talented guitarist playing fucking music I just don't like. It's like, yes, I can see the fucking genius here. I can hear the notes, I can fucking feel the technical,
it's like that Yngwie Malmsteen
superlatives.
Guy. Have you seen him?
Yeah, exactly. It's Yngwie Malmsteen's perfume. Like, I mean, turn this fucking racket off. It's absolute bollocks, right? I don't want to hear this Yngwie Malmsteen bullshit. But yeah, there's no denying the fucking sheer brilliance of it. Yeah. It's just not for me. It's not for me. And so, interesting, I don't think having commercial impact or success necessarily it rules something in or out as a masterpiece. I think if it transforms a genre, like in the way that Aventus and Baccarat have, then absolutely, you credit where it's due. But it's not a necessary requirement at all. And yeah,
and it can't be, because there are artists who are working who are not able to release commercially in the same way, with the same amount of marketing behind them or the same amount of money.
We can't all be Stormzy.
We can't be, but it doesn't mean that they aren't sitting in a studio producing exquisite things. And whether and whether that's music or paintings or perfume.
I think the music analogy is interesting as well, and certainly things flying under the radar, which is essentially what we're saying, or things not being like commercially successful, but still being there and there to discover years later. So I don't know, did you ever watch that like In Search of Sugar Man, or was it called Searching for Sugar Man?
Oh yes,
that documentary about that guy who just basically, like, he was too shy to play to audiences, so he played with his back to the fucking audience and stuff like that. And there was all this intriguing stuff. He lived in a derelict house in fucking Detroit and all that. But his music, like, you listen to those albums and you're like, or that album, I think he made one album, didn't he? Or and I've
Rodriguez.
that guy. And it's fucking amazing music. You know, he's got like the kind of this sort of lyrical talent of like Bob Dylan, but he's got like the kind of voice, and it's just like really cool and not really known in his time, or given the kind of the sort of props that he deserved at the time. So there's definitely that element in any art form, but in perfume, certainly that can be a thing. Same way with Paul Schultz, you know. I would say that the Deux-Seater, my only, and again, I tend to go, I don't give a shit what people, you know, I'm wearing Kouros the other day, but even Oud Infinity, for me, you've got to have a lot of bottle, right, to wear it for the first few hours. I completely agree with Ben. Whenever I've worn it, after like, you know, several hours, I'm like, okay, you've got over the kind of pooiness of the like oud and stuff. I can even appreciate that, but I can appreciate it like on a much deeper level after that time. But sometimes I'm like, I haven't got the 5 or 6 hours to sit here like smelling of shit, like, you know.
Sometimes I don't want Yngwie Malmsteen. Sometimes I just want like the Pet Shop Boys or something. You know. Yeah.
But it is a masterpiece, and I completely, you know, agree.
Agreed. Right, we are inducting Oud Infinity into the Les Oderants Masterpiece Hall of Fame. We've got quite a decent list so far. Did we put CK1 on, by the way? Did we think that is a masterpiece? What is it?
I'm not sure it is. I think it's an excellent pop hit. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
it feels more like a one-hit wonder. It's catchy pop.
Who made it?
There's a great question. Was it?
I think Marilla's
to be honest, you could guess at any perfume and say Marilla's, and you'd have a 65% chance of being right.
It's co-created by Alberto Marillas and Harry Fremont or Fremont.
There you go.
Which is interesting, because I remember once hearing something that said that if you see a perfume is co-created, it often means that it was a nightmare and that things were going badly during the creation. I don't know how true that was. No.
Do you know who started that? That guy who wrote that fucking book about Creed, who started saying that shit.
See, I think that's bollocks, because almost all of Goutal's stuff is Camille Goutal and Isabelle Doyen, and Isabelle Doyen doesn't really work anywhere else. And
I think I heard it was on that documentary where they do
really well.
Loud fragrance. They follow the creation of the Loud fragrance, the BBC4 documentary. I think someone on there mentioned it. It was just like a passing line in the documentary or whatever. But yeah, I always thought it was quite interesting. But yeah, so are we saying CK1 is?
I mean, is CK1 though? Well, I don't know, because then if you look at the body of Marillas's work, does it stand as a pinnacle of his excellence? I mean, it beats 212 Sexy out of water, but
he's the Pete Waterman of perfumery. Like just pop hit after pop hit. You know, there is a certain brilliance to that pop hit, but I don't know. It doesn't, for me. It doesn't quite reach that level.
That's a strange deep fucking Waterman.
Yeah.
Do people know who he is? I actually met him not that long ago. I think it was like last summer. Because he does this. He's into trains.
Are you saying nobody knows who Pete Waterman is?
I don't think they did. I mean, I didn't really. I mean, he's on fucking. Was he on something? He was on like X Factor or some shit.
The Hitman and Her.
Yeah.
Am I thinking of the wrong?
And I'm just looking through that. I mean,
who the fuck is this guy?
Stock Aitken and Waterman.
Yes, Stock Aitken and Waterman.
You know, they've just made pop
hits.
Everybody famous.
The Hit Factory
in the 80s and 90s. Yeah.
But I'm sure
he's like a blonde-haired sort of old fella. blondie haired. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the guy that I
yeah.
met. He basically every year, he makes like a model like train set, and he puts it in the cathedral in Chester. He does. I think he tours. I think he tours around with it. Yeah. Pete Waterman, and my missus was like, "Oh, my mum went to school with Pete Waterman in Coventry." And he always she went up to him and went, "Oh, do you remember Betty?" And he was like, "Yeah, she was in my class in school." So we had a chat with Pete Waterman, and he wears like a fucking train driver's hat and everything, and he's obviously dead into trains. So I just thought,
This is the sort of thing
I'm
only
just
very
googling
famous
it
people
now,
can do.
and there's a lot of articles. Music producer Pete Waterman makes tracks with biggest model
There you go,
railway in the
biggest model
world.
railway.
So he's spent his money well. He's spent his money very well.
Doing what he loves, fair enough.
Yeah.
But CK1's not in.
I don't think it is.
I don't know. I think you'd need a simple majority would carry it, but I think both Fliss and I are not convinced. So,
I mean, I know all the words to "ooh" are just a little bit, but it doesn't mean that I think it's a pinnacle of music. Do you know what I mean? It feels very much like that.
But I would say it's more than ooh, because I was thinking that. I was thinking about the night, but it's
Is it
not
too
a step
trite?
to it. That's the thing. It's Come As You Are or Song 2. Do you know what I mean? If you look at going back, and I wouldn't really call Song 2 a masterpiece either, but there's no denying that.
Everybody was jumping up and down to it, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, but I'm
have you
I'm
heard
just fine.
Blur's latest
I'm not
song?
upset.
I heard it on the radio the other day. Oh, it's
We're no longer talking about perfume, by the way.
No.
Yeah, it's Pete Waterman, it's model railways, it's their new music toss.
Yeah, the new.
I found a lot of Blur music was toss when at the time, and it was only sort of good in retrospect. But maybe I'm just a miserable bastard. Because it's some of it's so very avant-garde, you know. And Damon Albarn is an absolute whopper.
He is, isn't he?
I mean, he's kind of cool, but
you're
he's
more
also
of a
cunt.
Mad for It
So,
Oasis fan, aren't you?
yeah, I'm a massive Oasis fan, me. Right, okay, so we have rejected CK1. It can get to fuck. James, did you prepare anything else on your list of masterpieces?
Not really. I mean, I've mentioned CK1 and Molecule, and again, they're more from that commercial kind of thing that we've already identified. Doesn't necessarily have to be an element, so fine. If we really want to go into my own personal things, then I mean, and I even hate kind of bringing these up because it's so self-centered or whatever, self-absorbed. I'm kind of I don't even want to mention the perfumes that I think are, but they kind of objectively are as well. So let's say Kouros, right? I think Kouros is a masterpiece. What do you lot think?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you were going to follow that up.
Not really. I mean, we all know what it smells like. We
Um,
know how iconic it is. We don't have to go on about that.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a masterpiece or not? Come on.
Yes.
Good.
Yes, I think it's fair.
Good.
I mean, there's no denying its kind of brilliance and its sort of a boundary pushing sort of ness, if that's a word.
Yeah.
I made that up. But yeah, I think it. Someone else mentioned a perfume which I think it's nothing like Kouros, but it is a masterpiece for the same reason or a similar reason, I think. And that was Dior Homme, the original Dior Homme,
Right.
which basically took a lot of very traditionally feminine stuff, particularly the powdery, irisy, lipsticky sort of iris, and turned that on its head and made it masculine. And I think, you know, it was pushing a boundary in the same way that the Kouros does, you know. And I think, yeah, fair fucks to both of them. I would say both, nothing like each other. There's no other connection between the two perfumes. But arguably both masterpieces and much for the same sort of reason, I'd say.
Yeah.
On the back of that Kouros, can I suggest one as well?
Of course.
Is it Bergamask?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not.
Okay.
I wanted to put forward Marbet, Eris, Antoine Lee. Although it does ride on the back of another masterpiece, Kouros, I think that there's a modernity to it now, and in terms of his body of his work, the animalics that he uses, and you can see those the animalics run through his other work, especially Vierge Torios that he did for État Libre d'Orange, and that kind of there's not really an animalic in the same way in Secretions Magnifiques, but he's playing with that. How filthy can I be? How dirty can I be? How much can I push this? And I think that Marbet, in terms of what he has done as a perfumer, and I mean, as a house, I think Eris are all excellent perfumes. But I think in terms of his work and also in the terms of that house, I think it is a standout, audacious piece of creative work that I think is pretty technically faultless. That is a masterpiece, a modern masterpiece just a modern masterpiece. I was trying to find some more words, but I'd spoken enough.
Yeah, I think...
You've never spoken enough. We always have appetite to hear more words. That's fine.
I get certainly where you're coming from. I mean, immediately I smelled Marbet and I was like, okay, so this has got that, like, obviously I shared this base with you when we did the Musk thing, not with a Fliss, unfortunately, because I think that was before your time. But I will send it to you if you want. So there's the Animalis, which is a base made by, I don't know who it's made by, but it's basically the basis of Kouros, right? And that is a very Costus heavy, so it smells like kind of more sort of like dirty hair than anything else. It's got this like real like skanky but like very unique quality. Furry
quality.
And that, I believe, obviously, I don't even think like Antoine Lee goes to the shelf and goes, oh, there's a ready-made base for that. I'm just going to make a perfume around this. He knows how to make a Costus, even if it's using the Costus Olifant, because obviously you can't use...
But he's been doing it before, though. If you look at stuff like Vierge Torios, his animalic base, he has an animalic base that he has. And in Marbet, apparently he uses 50% more than he's ever used before. And it's him pushing his own base to the very limits of where he can go. When he was training,
do you think that that was around? Kouros was probably around at the sort of time when he was training. So I think he's probably been inspired by that.
But can you not? Oh, completely. But then can a masterpiece from a perfumer ride on the back of a previous masterpiece?
Yes.
Yes, I would say it can. I think you can look at something and go, my God, that's amazing. I'm going to interpret and push a little bit differently. So Kouros is a male fragrance, whereas Marbet is obviously unisex in a way that Kouros, I would suggest, maybe isn't.
Yeah.
And I wore them on both wrists the other day to check this. And Kouros definitely comes off as very much more masculine.
Much more woody,
whereas Marbet, I feel
Kouros as well, and certainly moves out of that like territory of that kind of floral musk. If that's what you want to even call it. But yeah, Marbet is definitely it's that kind of like creative thing, and I'm so glad that there is that for modern people who maybe weren't necessarily exposed to Kouros when it was really full on, because modern Kouros is quite different. I think they've done a very good job of doing the modern stuff that you can just go in Boots and buy. But that is very, me thing to say. It's certainly not as good as my vintage bottles of Kouros, which have that character and that kind of like dirtiness. But yeah, to smell it as intended by somebody who's doing something which is much more broadly appealing to indie people who probably remember what Koros was like, etc., then my bet is definitely a love letter to it, or whatever you'd want to call it, without being like, oh, I'm gonna copy this masculine kind of perfume, because it isn't that. It's actually quite feminine. My bet. Even though
I agree, actually. I think it's very feminine. I mean, obviously there is the connection, but I found it too feminine personally. I to the point where I didn't really enjoy it. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you. If you say it's a masterpiece, I'll sort of nod and go, okay then. But it's not one that I would have reached for that definition.
I pushed myself to look beyond to look in, particularly in my perfume collection, and go, as I didn't want just to choose things that are obvious classics. Do you know what I mean? I think there is, you can have the term masterpiece for something that's relatively new, but is fucking good. And
yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be. I think there's plenty of modern stuff. I feel like and I fucking hate the perfume, to be honest. But Ganymede, the Marc-Antoine Barrois, Quentin Biche, and that whole metallic sort of thing that he's doing. I wonder whether we won't look back on that and sort of see that as a masterpiece, as a sort of inflection point where something changed, perhaps. Personally, I just don't like the perfume. I find all of them just too fucking unrelenting. It's like being fucking, just battered relentlessly by a metallic apple in the face. It's uncool. But I think there are modern masterpieces for sure. I mean, my masterpiece choices were sort of pretty unsurprising, to be honest. I think Invasion Barbar. It has to be for me. I think it is the pinnacle of that sort of barbershop vibe, and it's got this super kind of, there's something just like really avant-garde and daring about the musk in there as well that just makes me go, what is this? Is this like a fucking cool, sporty, slick fragrance, or is this a dirty fucking filth fest? I don't know, and I'm still not sure. It keeps me sort of guessing every time. Derby, I think for me, Guerlain Derby is just like the it is the high watermark for leather perfumes in my view. And then what else did I have? I had Terre d'Hermès. I think is this, for something mainstream and modern. I think that's just it's brilliant, and it's unobvious and unorthodox and somehow incredibly popular. It's sort of like seeing, I don't know, like fucking a Jeff Buckley song become like a fucking global mega hit or something. It's just unexpected and
don't you think when that came out brilliant as well, and I think this is sort of a testament to how good it is that when it came out, it was a bit of a slow burner. Like, at first, I remember the criticism was quite hard of Terre d'Hermès. A lot of people said, oh, this smells like old men, and it's old-fashioned and stuffy. Yeah. And then give it a couple of years, like by like 2015, everyone was fucking falling over themselves for it. But it took a few years for people to sort of agree with it.
That happens quite often.
Yeah. Yes. So, there's this I think there's plenty, but I still...
I think that argument though, Ben, is why I don't think that CK1 is a masterpiece. Because it was almost like it was like a pop hit and everyone immediately started dancing.
But no one wears it anymore.
In the disco, wearing it.
Yeah.
And no one wears it anymore. Whereas I think there is something about something being released and maybe not even people liking it initially.
I think people still wore
people
it
coming round to its brilliance.
2010s, I would say. Sorry, late 2000s, maybe.
Terre d'Hermès is the Shawshank Redemption of perfumes. It was like nobody liked it at first. They didn't fucking... The big studios didn't pick up the movie. It didn't get a cinematic release. It was more or less straight to fucking video. And over time has become popularly regarded to be an absolute fucking classic. And quite rightly so. It's an amazing movie. And that is Terre d'Hermès. Lots of movie and music references tonight, most of which are wildly off-key. And do check out Pete Waterman's catalogue.
I did have loads more,
and his little railway as well.
Jeez.
Yeah, I had loads that I was going to chuck in about like music references and shit, but it's
so
gone
like
now. It's gone.
As a movie,
It's
then
good.
I'll give you my next one. It's a Tim Burton film of fragrances. Saracens by Serge Luton.
I don't know
It's
it.
a phenomenally good. I don't know if you'd call it a soliflor. I think perhaps you would, but it's like a white, like jasmine white floral. But it's fucking unreal.
But
it's dark and broody and moody and like asymmetric and odd and angular and.
The first blast is really camphorous and sharp. It takes ages to dry down into something that's a pleasant floral. It's interesting because the Alain Nui is his what I would consider to be his jasmine soliflor, and it's a phenomenal soliflor, and it's a phenomenal photorealistic jasmine. But I don't think I could call it a masterpiece. Whereas I think I agree with you that the audacity of the opening, especially of Sarah Sands,
it's interesting because when you're talking about like commercial success and stuff, like Sarah Sands, there's no way it would ever be commercially successful as a fragrance. But
oh my God, is it a unicorn now? People scrabble over themselves to get hold of it on eBay and the groups. Even just 5 mil goes for a fuck ton.
And it's purple.
Can I throw one out there?
Yeah, throw one out there.
Now, it's weird because I hated this perfume for a long time just because of the really dirty civet kind of dry down on it. But then I just grew to love it. And knowing the sort of history, and it's not even the original name for this perfume because originally it was called Gentleman's Cologne. But it's by one of my favourite perfumers, and he was one of those that wasn't particularly prolific during his lifetime, but he made some really... big perfumes. So anyway, I'm picking Amouage Gold Man and Woman by Guy Robert. Now, I think they're totally in the mould of, bear in mind they were made in 1983, right? That they were in the mould of older sort of perfumes, right? But I definitely get that like rose hip smell and the really powdery, ridiculously powdery, really opulent kind of floral smell of it. And it's just a stunning perfume. It's very similar to Kalesh, which is another Guy Robert, I believe. And he was just an excellent perfumer. He made... Dior Essence as well, which is an amazing perfume, by the way, which is often overlooked over Miss Dior and all those kind of things. Made a few things for Gucci, like Pour Homme. So he made the Kalesh for Hermes and Equipage. He done one for Jean Patou. and those things. So, and obviously he did Madame Rocasse and Monsieur Rocasse, which is another classic vintage that I've got. So I just love that guy as a perfumer. He's a bit sort of like one tone, if you like. But what a, it's one of those things like, you're a bit of a one-trick pony, but what a trick. And I think Gold Man and Woman were the perfect reflection. And when you think about Amouage as a brand,
like Monet, just with the same water lily again and again and again and again and again.
And then one of them is like...
Who's to say they're not masterpieces?
And I'm not saying necessarily all of his work is masterpieces, but they're all, like, I look at those perfumes and I'm like, they're all great. But what I like about the Amouage story is that they were like, right, okay, we're this brand, we want to be this brand from, Oman, and we've got all this stuff. And I think he incorporated the frankincense, because obviously that was from, local to the brand. And I just think I like the story. He was the first to do, the man and the woman for this new brand. And what a statement piece that those two are. And they're just great. Because I think he also took kind of Kalesh, which he'd already made like a few years previous, had he? Let's have a look. When was Kalesh made? He made it in the fucking 60s. Sorry. So a long time before. And then kind of remade them, but with even more balls and even more like just loads of everything. So that's going from the Hermes, where we would come in, it comes full circle back to, did they have an evaluator that was like, you're putting a bit too much civet in this, mate? Do you know what I mean? Like, let's rein this back. And then when he did it for Amouage, they were like, we're a brand new brand. We want to like stand out. So he effectively made his, his usual kind of thing that he does, but really turned it up to 11 and kind of amped it up for both of those.
I haven't tried the women's gold, but the men's is an absolute fucking headbanger of a perfume. I got one of those gift sets, with the shower gel and the fucking and the perfume in the bottle, and the shower gel. I swear to God, the fucking shower gel was strong enough for me. Yeah. I would have a shower, come out, and I go, I quite like that. It's nice. Put on the perfume, it's like, nah, it's just too fucking much, mate. It's an amazing piece of work, but for me, it's completely fucking unwearable. It's like, it's just so fucking strong. It's unreal.
And not to mention, that's the good bit, right? Because you wake up the next day with it still on your skin, and it's like you've been, I can't think of anything that's not disgusting to say.
Well, just say something.
Something very bad has happened to you, and you're still alive.
Yeah, and it is dirty. The like.
It is very weird that James. It's very weird that James self-censors. I mean, this is coming from the guy who brings you finger banging of six sisters. This is like the.
What goes on in here is far worse than that. You're only privy to the stuff
self-censoring.
That comes out, and
Jesus, and some of that's bad. Some of that's very bad. Okay, well let's just take a quick vote on Amouage Gold. I'm not going to stand in your way. There's something genius about it. I can't comment on the women's one, I don't think, but I'm gonna have to check that one out for sure. The men's is just it's something else. Funnily enough, I remember talking to Dan Joy of Wafts, and I think Gold is one of his favourite perfumes. And he's a man with impeccable taste. Right. So why not? Let's wave it in. Okay, we have been going on for long enough. We got quite a list. I'll just reel off some of them. We got Mitsuko, Aventus, Baccarat Rouge, Chypre Palatin, Molecular One, Tears of Eros, which we need to check out. We had Versace Eros. That was definitely in. We were all big fans of that. Just checking you're still awake. Ducitas Oud Infini, Kouros, Marbet, Tedermes, Derby, Invasion Barbar. Is there anything? I mean, there are Saracens, but I don't know that one. So Sarah Sands. What is it?
Saracens.
Saracens, as in like the rugby team.
No, as in SARR. ASINS.
INS, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, clearly going to have to check that out. I mean, I think there's plenty.
Saracen.
Oh well, that helps.
Well, now you said it like that, Now you said it was sexy French.
Saracen. Oh yes, of course. Yeah, no, I know that
Good
one.
morning.
Jesus. Good morning. I was just pissing by. Right. Yeah. TV references, perhaps. So I don't think there's any sort of limitation on the number of masterpieces that can be out there, but I do need to wrap it up by saying two things. One, I fucking hate the Xerjoff That's Amore brigade, as I'm sure I've mentioned ad nauseum. But they do tend to call everything. They refer to him as the master. Which is like fucking nauseating, but they describe everything as a masterpiece. It's like there are no masterpieces from Xerjoff. I mean, there's a few really good perfumes, but I don't think there's anything that would be a masterpiece in my view. So I wanted to say that. I still fucking hate those people, and also I want to say Bergamask is not a masterpiece. Brandon, you are wrong, my friend. You are wrong. Right. Any final thoughts? Fliss?
No, I've really enjoyed unpacking it, actually. I think it's really interesting that such a word that's used a lot can actually have so many different connotations and meanings. And once you scratch the surface, there's everyone's got a slightly different idea. And it's really interesting to pick it apart. I've really enjoyed picking it apart.
Yeah, well, there's no group of people I'd rather pick it apart with than you lot. And that is not even a sexual innuendo. So, no. Ben, final thoughts?
Slightly disappointed that it wasn't sexual innuendo, but there we go.
No. Okay, then it was.
Brilliant. I still think CK1 was a masterpiece, but otherwise, never mind.
CK1, no. Easy fix. Did you even see did you see that news article, by the way, about somebody suing their boss for inappropriate sexual advances in the workplace? And one of the things that she'd complained about was that this guy whose initials were AJG, he'd changed the name of a document to like include his initials because he'd edited it, so it's like AJG at the end of the document, and she submitted in her court papers that AJG stood for a jumbo genital.
Yes, I did see that piece of news.
Fucking a jumbo genital. That's the name of my next album. Fuck yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Anyway, James, final thoughts from you, Squire.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this discussion a lot more than I thought I would, because I think we were all a bit like, what is a masterpiece and whatever. But I think we've certainly picked it apart as much as we can, and just sort of concluded that maybe we don't use the term anyway, so it doesn't matter.
No, I mean, that's true. I don't think any of us really do use the term, but but
it's good to acknowledge.
Sorry to pick on Brandon.
Having picked it apart, I think I will be inclined to now, because I feel as if I would be able to justify my choices of language.
Why do you say masterpiece? Well, actually, I spent some time.
Actually, have you got half an hour or more?
Here's my thesis on the subject.
Yes, I refer you to my musings on Les Oderants. So and Brandon, if you're still listening, mate, I'm sorry to pick on you and your perfume choice. It's just that I have a particular hatred of Bergamask. I find it a very upsetting perfume, and to see it described as a masterpiece made me go, really? What the fuck is a masterpiece? What have I misunderstood about that word? So anyway, I've enjoyed it. It's been real. Sign up to our Patreon. Send us all your money. It'd be it'd be nice. I'll get me a Lambo and I'll be off.
Should probably say there is bonus material on the Patreon. There is a couple of extra little tidbits of
tidbits.
Interviews with people.
Yep. Recently with Amanda Beadle of Bedo. Check it the fuck out. Okay, well, it's been real. We'll be back in 2 weeks with yet more riveting perfume discussion and very strange musical and film comparisons. In the meantime, we have been Les Oderants, and we will speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.